So you're sitting in a dealership right now, or maybe you're scrolling through cars online at midnight because your current car just hit 150,000 miles and you're convinced it's about to fall apart. And you're doing this mental math in your head. Okay, I can probably afford $400 a month. That's reasonable. That's what everyone pays, right? Wrong. Look, I need to tell you something that's probably going to make you uncomfortable. That car payment you think is normal, it's quietly destroying your ability to build wealth, and I can prove it to you with actual numbers. My name is Rihan, and I spend way too much time thinking about why people who make good money still feel broke at the end of every month. If you're someone who feels like you're doing everything right, working hard, paying your bills on time, maybe even putting a little away for retirement, but you still can't seem to get ahead, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Because today, we're talking about cars. And I know everyone has an opinion about cars. But here's the thing. This isn't about whether you should drive a Honda or a BMW. This is about a financial principle that most people completely ignore, and it's costing them hundreds of thousands of dollars over their lifetime. I call it the $5,000 car rule. And once you understand it, you'll never look at car buying the same way again. Here's what most people think. I need a reliable car to get to work. New cars are reliable, used cars break down. Therefore, I should buy a new car or at least something relatively new with a warranty. That logic seems sound, right? It's what your parents probably told you. It's what the dealership definitely wants you to believe. But let me show you what's actually happening with your money. The average new car payment in America right now is $743 per month. Let me say that again, $743. And the average length of these loans, 68 months. That's almost 6 years. So right off the bat, you're committing to paying over $50,000 for something that, here's the kicker, loses 20% of its value the moment you drive it off the lot. In the first year alone, that new car loses about 30% of its value. Now, you might be thinking, okay, Rihan, but I need a reliable car. I can't afford to have something break down when I'm trying to get to work. I get it. I really do. But here's what most people don't realize. The reliability gap between a well-maintained 5-year-old car and a brand new car is way smaller than you think. And the cost difference? That's massive. So here's the rule, and it's simple. Never have more than $5,000 tied up in a vehicle until you've built real wealth. Now, before you click away thinking, Rihan, I can't drive a $5,000 car, those are junkers. Stay with me because this isn't really about driving a $5,000 car forever. It's about understanding what cars actually do to your finances and making strategic decisions based on that understanding. Let me break down the math because this is where it gets really interesting. Let's say you're 25 years old and you're deciding between two options. Option A, buy a $35,000 car with $3,000 down and finance the rest at 7% interest over 6 years. Your payment is $562 a month. Option B, buy a $5,000 reliable used car in cash. Take that $562 you would have spent on a car payment and invest it instead. Most people pick option A without even considering option B. They think option B is settling or being cheap. But let's look at what actually happens with your money. With option A, after 6 years, you've paid $40,464 total for the car. And here's the thing. That car you bought for $35,000 is now worth maybe $12,000 if you're lucky. You've lost over $23,000 in value. That's not a purchase. That's a wealth destruction machine. Now, let's look at option B. You buy that $5,000 car. Yes, you might need to put another $1,500 into it over those 6 years for maintenance and repairs, so you're all in for $6,500. But here's where the magic happens. You take that $562 monthly payment and you invest it at a conservative 8% annual return, which is below the stock market's historical average. After 6 years, you have $49,600. Let me say that again, $49,600. Not only did you save money on the car itself, but you built an actual investment portfolio. The person in option A has a 6-year-old car worth $12,000 and zero savings from those payments. The person in option B has a 6-year-old car worth maybe $3,000 and $49,600 in investments. That's a $34,600 difference in 6 years. But here's the thing, this isn't really about math. I mean, it is. The math is undeniable. But the reason people don't do this has nothing to do with math. It's psychological. We've been programmed to think that our car says something about us, that it represents our success, our status, our competence as adults. And look, I get it. Nobody dreams about pulling up to their high school reunion in a 2008 Honda Civic. But here's what you need to understand. The person driving the $40,000 car and making $80,000 a year is, financially speaking, in a worse position than the person driving the $5,000 car and making $60,000 a year. Because the second person is actually building wealth. The first person is just looking wealthy. There's a massive difference. And this is something that took me years to understand. I used to think that once I made good money, I deserved a nice car, that it was a reward for my hard work. But that's not how wealthy people think. Wealthy people think about opportunity cost. Every dollar you spend on a car payment is a dollar that can't be working for you. It can't be invested. It can't grow. It can't be buying your freedom. Now, I know you're thinking, you've got objections. Let me address them. But Rihan, $5,000 cars are unreliable. I'll spend more on repairs than I save. Here's the data. According to AAA, the average annual cost to maintain a new vehicle is about $1,186 per year. For a used vehicle, it's around $1,400 per year. That's a difference of $214 per year. Meanwhile, the average new car payment is $743 per month. That's $8,916 per year just in payments, not including the higher insurance costs, higher registration fees, and faster depreciation. So even if you have slightly higher maintenance costs, you're still saving over $7,500 per year. And that's before we even factor in the opportunity cost of not investing that money. Plus, and this is important, you can buy a really reliable used car for $5,000 if you're smart about it. I'm talking about a 2010, 2012 Toyota Corolla or Honda Civic with 100,000 to 130,000 miles. These cars are known to run for 200,000 miles with basic maintenance. You're not buying a junker. You're buying a proven, reliable vehicle that's already gone through its major depreciation. I need a car for my image. My clients expect me to look successful. Look, unless you're a real estate agent driving clients to showings in your car, your clients aren't thinking about your car. They're thinking about the value you provide. And here's the really interesting part. Research from Thomas Stanley's book, The Millionaire Next Door, found that the majority of actual millionaires drive used cars. The median price they paid for their vehicle was $31,000, and these are people worth over $1 million. Know who drives the fancy new cars? People trying to look like millionaires. There's a huge difference. Your real clients, the ones that matter, they're going to judge you on your competence, your results, and your professionalism, not your car. But I can afford the payment. This is the most dangerous objection because it feels true. You can't afford the payment. It fits in your budget. Your debt-to-income ratio still looks okay to the bank. But here's what most people don't realize. Affordability isn't the right question. The right question is, what's the opportunity cost? Let me show you something that's going to blow your mind. Let's say you're 25 and you follow the typical American car buying pattern. You buy a new or nearly new car every 6 to 8 years with an average payment of $600 for your entire working life. From age 25 to age 65, that's 40 years. If you're consistently making a $600 car payment, you're spending $288,000 on car payments over your lifetime. And because of depreciation, you've got nothing to show for it except whatever your current car is worth at age 65, maybe $15,000. Now, what if instead you bought reliable used cars for cash and invested that $600 per month for 40 years at 8% annual return? You'd have $2,087,000. I'm going to say that again, $2,087,000. The difference between these two approaches isn't $288,000, it's over $2 million because of compound growth. That's the opportunity cost. That's what I can afford the payment is actually costing you. But here's where we need to go deeper because the $5,000 car rule isn't really about cars. It's about understanding the difference between assets and liabilities. Your car is not an asset. I don't care what your balance sheet says. An asset puts money in your pocket. A liability takes money out of your pocket. Your car takes money out of your pocket every single month. Payment, insurance, gas, maintenance, registration. Real assets, though, those are things like investments, rental properties, businesses, things that generate cash flow or appreciate in value over time. And here's the shift that changes everything. Once you start thinking in terms of assets versus liabilities, you stop making financial decisions based on what you can afford and start making decisions based on what moves you closer to financial freedom. The $5,000 car rule is really about making a choice. Do you want to look wealthy now or actually be wealthy later?
So let me give you the actual strategy, the way this works in real life. Phase 1, the foundation, usually 3 to 7 years. Buy a reliable used car for around $5,000 cash. If you don't have $5,000 saved, that's your first goal. Save up the cash. Do not finance a car when you're in the wealth building phase. Take every dollar you would have spent on a car payment and invest it. I'm talking about putting it in a Roth IRA, maxing out your 401k, investing in low-cost index funds. You're building your wealth foundation. During this phase, yes, you might need to do some repairs. Budget for them. Set aside maybe $100, $150 per month for car maintenance and repairs. Even with this expense, you're still investing $400 to $650 per month, which is building serious wealth. Phase 2, the upgrade, after you've built real wealth. Here's where it gets interesting. You don't drive a $5,000 car forever. That was never the point. Once you've built substantial wealth, and I'm talking about having a net worth of at least $200,000 to $300,000 in investments, not including your house, then you can upgrade. But here's the key. You still buy used and you still buy with cash. At this point, maybe you buy a $15,000 to $20,000 car that's 3 to 4 years old. It's nicer, more comfortable, has lower miles, but you're buying it with actual wealth, not with debt. And because you've been building your investment portfolio, that $15,000 is a much smaller percentage of your net worth. Phase 3, true wealth, 10 to 20 years in. Now we're talking about having $500,000 plus in investments. Your money is working for you. You've got real passive income streams. At this point, if you want to buy a nicer car, go for it. But here's what's interesting. Most people who get to this phase don't even want the expensive car anymore because they've experienced something more valuable than a nice car. They've experienced financial freedom. They've experienced what it's like to not stress about money, to have options, to know they can quit a job they hate because they've got investments covering their expenses. That's worth way more than leather seats and a premium sound system. Let me show you one more thing because I think this really drives it home. I want you to imagine two people, both 25 years old, both making $50,000 a year. Let's call them Alex and Jordan. Alex follows the conventional path, buys a new car every 8 years with a $550 monthly payment, puts 5% in their 401k to get the company match. Otherwise lives a pretty normal middle-class life. Jordan follows the $5,000 car rule, buys reliable used cars for cash, never has a car payment, invests aggressively, 15% of income plus the money saved from not having a car payment. At age 65, after 40 years of working, here's where they stand. Alex has spent $264,000 on car payments, has a net worth of around $580,000, mostly from the 401k and home equity, and needs to work until 65 to maintain their lifestyle. Jordan has spent maybe $40,000 on cars total over those 40 years, has a net worth of over $2.4 million, and could have retired at 55 if they wanted to. Same starting salary, same career trajectory. The difference? One person understood the $5,000 car rule and one didn't. That's a 10-year difference in when you can retire. That's having 4 times the wealth. That's the difference between financial stress and financial freedom. So here's what you need to do, like actually do after watching this video. Step 1, calculate your current car situation. What's your car worth? How much do you owe? What's your monthly payment? Run the actual numbers. Step 2, if you're underwater on your current car loan, and statistically most people are, you need a plan. Can you work extra hours to pay it off faster? Can you sell it and pay off the difference? Don't just accept being stuck in a bad car loan. Step 3, start learning about reliable used cars. Consumer Reports, Edmunds, Kelley Blue Book, these sites have reliability ratings. The sweet spot is usually 5 to 10-year-old Honda, Toyota, or Mazda vehicles. They're reliable, parts are cheap, and they've already depreciated. Step 4. Save up cash for your next car. Open a separate savings account labeled Car Fund. Even if you're still making payments on your current car, start building this fund. When it's time to replace your car, you'll have cash ready. Step 5. Set up automatic investments. Once you're not making a car payment, automate that money straight into your investment accounts. Don't give yourself the chance to spend it on something else. Look, I know this is hard. I know our culture tells you that your car matters, that it's a reflection of your success, that you deserve a nice car if you work hard. And I'm not saying you don't deserve nice things. I'm saying that the temporary satisfaction of driving a new car is not worth giving up your financial future. Because here's what nobody tells you. The feeling of driving a new car off the lot, it lasts maybe 2 weeks. Then it's just your car. It's just how you get to work. But the feeling of watching your investment account grow, of knowing you're building real wealth, of realizing you have options and freedom, that feeling grows over time. It gets better every single month. I'm not asking you to sacrifice. I'm asking you to delay gratification in one area so you can have something way better, financial independence. And here's the thing that really gets me. The car payment is just one example. It's the same principle with everything. The $300 per month you're spending on restaurants when you could meal prep for $100, the $150 a month on subscriptions you barely use, the finance furniture, the credit card debt, the lifestyle inflation that happens every time you get a raise, it's all the same problem. We've been taught to think in terms of monthly payments instead of thinking of wealth building. The $5,000 car rule is really about rewiring your brain to think differently about money. It's about recognizing that every financial decision is actually a choice between looking wealthy now or being wealthy later. And once you understand this principle with cars, you start applying it everywhere. You start asking, what's the opportunity cost before every purchase? You start making decisions about building assets instead of accumulating liabilities. That's when everything changes. Now, I'm going to be real with you. Most people won't do this. Most people watching this video will think, yeah, that makes sense, and then go buy a car with a payment anyway. Because it's hard. It requires discipline. It requires being willing to drive something less impressive than what you could technically afford. It requires explaining to your friends and family why you're not buying a newer car when you just got a promotion. It requires being okay with people judging you for being cheap when you're actually being smart. But here's what I've learned. The people who judge you for driving a modest car while you build wealth, those people are usually broke. They're living paycheck to paycheck with a nice car in the driveway and stress about money keeping them up at night. The people who actually have money, they respect discipline. They respect strategic thinking. They respect someone who's willing to delay gratification to build something real. I want to tell you something personal. When I first started thinking about this stuff, I was driving a financed car with a $400 monthly payment. And I convinced myself it was fine because everyone has a car payment. But then I actually did the math. I calculated what that payment was costing me over 10, 20, 30 years. And I got angry, not at the dealership or the bank, at myself, because I had fallen for it. I had prioritized looking successful over actually building wealth. So I made a change. I sold that car, paid off the loan, and bought a $6,000 Honda Civic with cash. And you know what? It was humbling. My friends made jokes. My family asked if I was okay financially. But 6 years later, while those same people are still making car payments, I've got a 6-figure investment portfolio. I've got options. I've got freedom. And my car, it's still running great because I maintained it properly and because Hondas just run forever if you take care of them. That's the transformation I want for you. Not just in your car situation, but in how you think about money entirely. So here's my challenge to you. If you're currently making a car payment, I want you to calculate the real cost. Go to an investment calculator and input your monthly payment at 8% annual return over the next 20 or 30 years. See what that number is. Then ask yourself, is my car really worth that much of my future? And if you're planning to buy a car soon, I want you to at least consider the $5,000 car rule. Research reliable used cars in that range. Run the numbers on what you'd save. Think about what investing that money could do for your future. You don't have to take my word for it. Do the math yourself, because once you see it, you can't unsee it. The truth is, building wealth isn't complicated. It's not about making six figures or having some secret investment strategy. It's about making smart decisions consistently over time. It's about recognizing the difference between assets and liabilities. It's about prioritizing your future self over your current ego. The $5,000 car rule is really about rewiring your brain to think differently about money. It's about recognizing that every financial decision is actually a choice between looking wealthy now or being wealthy later. And once you win with this one decision, it builds momentum. You start looking for other ways to optimize your finances. You start building real wealth instead of just looking wealthy. And that's when your whole life changes. So hit that subscribe button if this resonated with you, give this video a thumbs up if you found it valuable, and drop a comment below. Are you following the $5,000 car rule, or are you team car payment? I want to hear your thoughts. Thanks for watching. Now go build some wealth.